to Ethereum. Did you see that? 400
Who put
something
400
million.
million into Ethereum?
The owner of OnlyFans put a 400 million into Ethereum.
That was recently,
Yo,
or
there was
that was a
yeah.
while
If
ago?
you look, I tweeted something. It was really good. It was like a recap of all of like the current crypto news. And here, let me see if I can pull it up. I think you guys would be interested in
Okay,
this one.
while you're doing that, the OnlyFans numbers came out. They did 5.7 billion in
Bro,
revenue.
porn is free. I don't know why these people are paying
Me either,
that
bro.
much
I don't.
money. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's
The concept,
whatever.
but the concept behind OnlyFans is that these aren't kids, these aren't women that are doing that as a living. It's just like if you want to see my private thing, like I'm just a social media influencer or I'm some celebrity. Like the top payments, the top earners are like Cardi B and who hasn't really even posted all that much. Like
They paid out 5 billion to creators. They have 3
wow.
million stars and 238 million. I would say 99.9% of these are men paying anywhere from 5 to 500 a month for this content.
Wait, what's the population of the US?
There's
like
335 million people in the United States. So
that is insane.
Bro, you gotta remember the international probably audience is
Yeah.
there, bro. I could tell there's like some sweaty Indian dude and
But
No, but that's the
it's
thing.
okay,
They're not
isn't that
they're not paying
insane?
for the photos.
huh?
They're paying for the one-on-one conversations, and
Well,
that
whatever it
happens
is,
via some
man. I mean,
agency.
I could see Rakesh in a data, what do you call those data phone centers? Like, hello, how are you?
I saw a Reddit post of a guy who made an OnlyFans with an AI, and the AI handles everything. It's like all fake pictures, and the AI is doing all of the talking.
Yeah.
I lost you guys there for a second. I don't know. Here, so check this out.
Wild, man.
I'll just do
I've never paid for an OnlyFans ever. I never.
and don't. No,
I don't know.
So check
It's
this
just
out. This was I posted this 15 hours ago. Some major news from yesterday. OnlyFans owner collects 485 million in dividends as the firm invests profits into Ethereum. Let me make this a little bigger. That's a huge number. Anyway, this is just a bunch of other crypto news, but that was at the top of the list. That's what I thought you were talking about. You're like, oh,
goodness, 485 million into Ethereum.
Yeah,
that's
incredible.
incredible.
That's a lot of Ethereum.
All right. Well, firstly, how was your guys' weekend, Chris? How was your weekend?
It was good. It was good. My wife's been really like putting in the hours on the weekends. Like she's been working. Like I didn't even realize this. I was like, we went to breakfast today at IHOP, and I was just like, man, you're really working a lot of weekends these days. And she's like, yeah, I worked all 4 weekends this month. So like,
what's up, man?
I'm like, man, it sucks. So
did she have off today?
She did have off today, but yeah, but she's been doing a lot of Saturdays. So it's like, where's my wife?
Yeah.
What did you get from IHOP? Did you get chocolate chip pancakes?
I got the chicken fajita omelet with poblano. Like I love poblanos. Yeah.
Okay. Carlos, how was your weekend?
It was pretty good. I had a buddy of mine came over with his daughter. We hung out at the pool. We made mojitos. Like I made some mojitos. That was nice just to get to hang out. I did a little bit of work. I'm working on this comedy special. Just kind of a normal laid back kind of weekend. I still have to maintain the night schedule, so I still have to be up all night so that I can. So it's really weird. Like I'm doing most of my interactions at night, and I'm still sleeping during the day. But I still stubbornly try to make plans during the day.
Yeah.
But that was fun. Yeah, my buddy's like a big motorcycle guy, and so we went out to go get some stuff for the mojitos, and he's like, "Is this a plaid?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know. Don't worry, I won't." He's like, "No, I want to feel it." I was like, like very few people get afraid of this thing. I was like, "Okay," so we found a good spot, bro. He could not believe it. He's like, "I've been on a bike." And he's like, this was like the G-force. He was like, what? He's like, do it again.
Wow.
Do it again. So we did like a couple of launches. I was like, oh, that's awesome, man. That was a lot of fun. So he's a really cool dude, and I'm glad he moved here. Warren Puppet. Yeah, I would be a cool uncle. I call myself the Funkle. That's what I call myself to my kids. I'm like, I'm not an uncle. I'm a Funkle. So
one of these weekends, I got to come to LA and hang out with you, Carlos. I got to do some DD on a neighborhood that like I told you. Remember that REIT that I was talking to you about?
Yeah.
So maybe we can go check that neighborhood out and stuff.
Absolutely.
I just want to see some of the properties in that area and see how far they are along with the development, because I think that one company could honestly be a 4x based on like some of the research that I'm doing. So it's like
Yeah.
I think right now this is a good time to just look around the landscape to find some really good REITs that a lot of people are overlooking. And especially with post COVID recovery right now is I think starting to become a thing for like not just for like regular real estate, but for office and for multifamily, which is a very interesting sector because a lot of people are just overlooking it right now.
Yeah. Well, yo,
You know?
if you come out,
Yeah,
just give me a weekend.
yeah, definitely.
I don't know when you'd be planning, but it would probably make more sense like in November, somewhere in November.
Yeah,
around there.
yes, something like that. Yeah,
I'll be back on the day schedule. I'll be back with you day dwellers.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, before we move on to inflation stuff, real quick on this topic, Vegas is still on. So the plans are quite simple. So if you're coming to Vegas to see the Junkies, aim for the 28th and the 29th. So 26th and 27th, it's just going to be me, Carlos Vitale, and Chris. So just us four. On the 28th and 29th, we're going to plan 2 group events per day. So in the afternoon, we might go to like Top Golf or something. And then at night, we would have some casino we're going to go to. Same thing on the 29th. 29th morning, we might do like go-kart or something like that, some type of group activity. And then in the night, some type of casino. So the 28th and the 29th, you should expect to be there. And again, for seeing us, it's going to be kind of really simple. We're just going to text the big group chat. If you give us your number in that group chat, kind of where we are, and then you can just come chill with us at whatever event we're doing or whatever casino we're at, and that's it. But 26th and 27th is just going to be us 4. So that's the easiest way to do it is on the 28th or 29th. It's going to be October, Scott. October. So all 4 of us will be there 26th to the 30th. Carlos will be there for 2 days. But 26, 27, 26 we're coming in, so that doesn't really count. 27 is just going to be us going to some dinner. 28th and the 29th, we will be open to chill with anybody. And DM me on Twitter your phone number if you want to be included to the group if you're there. So if you're coming to Vegas, plan for those 2 days. And Caesars is likely the hotel you would be staying at. Those are the plans.
We're going to be probably near Caesars.
Yeah, around there. I don't know if all of us are staying in that hotel. Most of us are, but if not, it'll be near Caesars.
It's a good spot centrally located if you want to go down. Like if you want to visit the Luxor, it's pretty close. If you want to visit, we should go to the Wynn for some. That's a nice hotel too.
Yeah. And again, I'll share more updates, but that is the idea. The 28th in the morning, some type of group event. You can show up. You don't have to show up. 29th, some type of, not dinner, but in the casino. We'll just say where we are and anyone can meet up. And then same thing on the 29th. And then 30th, we fly out.
Oh, that's funny. Someone's like, I work at Caesars. I'll send you my number.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Gross. I know this guy. He works at Caesars.
What do you do? What do you do at
He does IT tech support.
He does IT. You know. I had M Life for a long time. M Life thing was that VIP plan. It's October.
It's going to be October. Yep. Okay. Having said that, let's get into Chris. This tweet caught some storm this morning. You say the Federal Reserve is creating a ticking time bomb with the housing market by maintaining high interest rates. And I'm not going to go through everything, but your overall argument was that the supply of housing is low, mortgage rates are too high, and at some level, the Fed is going to have to decide to cut rates because of this one reason. So can you expand on your reasoning behind housing supplies being the core canary in the coal mine that will allow the Fed to cut rates?
Well, I mean, anyone who's been in the market to buy a house knows that the price of homes has been somewhat excessive, right? Even with the higher interest rates. So traditionally, the methodology has always been that higher interest rates equals decrease in asset prices. And so that will help stem inflation, right? If the prices of the home is more expensive, because the overall per month cost is more expensive, then less people are likely to buy homes. The problem is this is the first time in history where they lowered rates for so long and they reduced down the interest rates to the degree that almost everyone was smart and refinanced at super low interest rates. So a lot of Americans have interest rates that are below 4%. And so a lot of people right now, they're kind of stuck in this zone of almost being stuck in like in a jail cell, right? Where basically it's called a golden handcuffs. If you've never heard of it, but basically what it is if you have like, let's say a $500,000 house and you have a under 4% mortgage. You have a certain mortgage that you're paying, which is fine. Now, let's say some sort of life event happens. You need to find a new job, or, death in the family happens, or, or you just need to move X, Y, and Z. You want to move, you want to do all these things, but you can't, because if you try to buy a house, the cost of that new house, the mortgage is going to be so damn high that it's going to be unaffordable. So you choose to stay in your home. So a lot of people are choosing to stay in their current existing homes because the mortgage rates are really low. And if the alternative option is that they're going to have to buy a home at the high price with a high mortgage. So a lot of people are staying put. Now, what's happening is every day that this keeps happening, you're seeing this distortion in supply where a lot of people are not listing their homes. So if you look at historically what the total number of listings are per year, usually during the summertime, right now we're like at a historical all-time low. So inventory is just overall really, really low. Now the problem is, as this whole segment of the homeowners starts to basically grow, where they're going to eventually have to sell, what happens is the Fed, one of the tools that they have during a recession in order to boost economic activity, is to lower interest rates, right? But the problem is, now if there's so many people that are wanting to move and wanting to buy new things, if you lower the interest rate, what's going to happen is you're going to create this really weird situation where if the price of the interest rate drops enough, all these homes are going to be coming onto the market at the same time, and people are going to rush to sell their homes. And then you're going to have a flood of inventory come in. And that's going to be bad, because as inventory comes into the market, especially a flood of it, the amount of buyers
prices
may
down.
not,
Yeah.
will drive the prices down. It might not match up. So what happens is you'll have price declines of homes. And what that does is it's a psychological thing where you'll end up getting a reverse wealth effect during a recession. That's really bad. Like you typically, what you want to do is give stimulus during a recession, not the other way around. So what ends up happening is, if there's a weak economy and you lower interest rates, usually it helps because it stimulates demand, and boom, you grow again. But now you're going to see the reverse thing happen, where lowering interest rates might actually hurt the economy. So the Fed right now is creating a really bad situation, because if they keep these rates elevated for a prolonged period of time, there's going to be a more of basically more homeowners that are going to want to sell when the interest rates start to come down again. So like right now, let's give an example like Carlos, right? Like let's say Carlos right now, he's got a great house, he's got a great mortgage, right? Now Carlos' family grows and he wants to buy a bigger home, right? A lot of Americans have that. Or he has a job offer, but it's like about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive for him. So right now, Carlos, instead of selling his home right now and buying something closer to his new job, right, or something bigger, what is Carlos doing? He's staying put. He's just literally dealing with the commute and everything else. But the minute that the interest rate drops, Carlos is now able to actually sell his home and buy something new and have like a similar mortgage payment or something a little bit more. But if Carlos were to do that today with the current interest rates and the current price of the homes, it would make no sense. So Carlos would end up staying in the same place.
I'd probably actually end up renting, is what I would do. I would probably just look at comparable, say 3-bedroom apartments, and price mine comparable to that, to say, hey, instead of an apartment, you can, and just basically try to keep the property. Is what I would do. I would want to keep the property. And
you know what? If you highlight this one chart on it from my thing, and that's what a lot of people seem to be doing. But it's funny that, let me just bring it up. That right there, higher up, right there. Stop. Blow that one. Click on it. So this is what's happening with the inventory right now. If you look at the green, the little bubble at the bottom, that right there is rented dwelling. So year over year, the inflation rate for rentals is actually pretty flat, which is good for inflation, right? You want kind of a flat thing. If rent is not going up, it's traditionally a good thing for the consumer. The problem is the price of the house itself is climbing. So you see that bifurcation happening, and that's a sign of an unhealthy market, in my opinion, because what's happening now is that it is much cheaper to rent than to buy right now. And actually, believe it or not, historically, it's actually been better to buy, better to rent than to buy in the United States. But that's debatable to depending on who you talk to. But essentially, this is the issue that you're starting to see, where eventually there's going to be a lot of people that are renting, that are converting their Airbnbs into rentals, like longer term rentals, because demand for Airbnbs is starting to slowly drop off. You've got a flood of new inventory, especially from multifamily construction coming online. You've got construction from single family coming online, and so you have more and more people competing in the rental market rather than the owner market. And the thing is, I don't know why so many real estate people are like, if you're buying real estate right now as an investment, um, I don't know what to tell you, because your cap rate must be like, it's I don't know. It just doesn't make sense right now to be a real estate investor in today's interest rate environment with the current price of the homes.
Can you
the way it
explain
is.
why lower interest rates can encourage homeowners to sell?
So the reason why is simple. It's because
That's
people's
that's an easy one.
yeah, people are more inclined to sell their home when they have something in the next home can be around the comparable price at which they're currently paying the mortgage. Because it's psychology. If my monthly mortgage is like 2,500, I could swallow a 2,700 or $2,800 mortgage in my next home very easily if I wanted to go higher or closer to the work. But with the current rates to where they are, you're gonna be paying almost like 3,500 to 4,000, because that's how much higher the interest rates are compared to what your mortgage currently is right now. I know, like my mortgage is sub 3%. Like I have a 2.7 something percent. So why would I want to give up that mortgage, that rate, and then try to get a house at a almost 8% mortgage right now? I'd be pretty dumb, because then what ends up happening was my monthly payment would literally double overnight. And so
What is your take on Zillow doing this whole 1% down for mortgages? Is that like a
I
bubble
saw that.
type thing?
That's a
or-
bad idea. That's a bad
that's
idea.
a really bad idea.
Why is
That's
that a bad
basic.
idea?
Well, because it's essentially the same thing that caused the 2008 housing crash. Now, on that end, they were just giving loans. They had lowered the standard and were giving people loans that were going to eventually default. But so maybe it's not the banks, but Zillow giving you 1%. That basically means you have no skin in the game, right? So if a house is whatever $500,000, you're saying for $5,000 you're going to get into a home and take on that responsibility. It's not enough skin in the game for the person to feel responsible for that loan, for that mortgage. You know
Why
what
do you
I'm
think
saying?
they're doing it? You think they just have enough cash?
Well,
to-
it's to increase demand. I mean, it's the same as you would say, why did Tesla lower prices? To just increase demand, to have people that say, hey, I got $5,000 in the bank. The house is $500,000. Why not buy a house instead? But there's a reason why they have these minimums. And yes, you can apply for a 3% FHA. That's how I bought this home. But typically they require 20% down. And a big part of that is because they want you to have some skin in the game. You know, if you have a $500,000 house and you put $100,000 down, you are like financially incentivized to make good on that mortgage. Otherwise, if you lose the home, you lose that invested capital. You understand what I'm saying? But if you have no skin in the game, it's like you're basically buying a house for what it would be as a rental. I mean, I paid more than $5,000 for a down payment on an apartment. You know, so it'll in the short term, it'll get more people into homes. But I have a feeling that plan will go the same way as their other plan, where we're like, hey, we'll buy your home and we'll sell it. That whole plan that they had to do that, and then eventually had to get rid of it. It just seems like they're trying something, right? They're just trying something to see if they can generate some interest. But at the end of the day, with these rates being so high, I mean, I agree with a lot of what Chris said about the rates are just keeping people at bay. Because why would you want, like, I've looked at houses. I'm in a bit of that situation. My family's growing and I'm like, let me see if I can go look at some houses. But in order for me to do that, I'd have to take all the equity from this home and put it into another home at a much higher rate, not knowing when the rates are going to come down. Is it really a win? The only way to really do it is if I could, say, rent this place out, but then I'd be taking on another mortgage at that higher rate. You can always refinance, but you just never know when it's going to happen. And some of the uncertainty,
I'm glad you brought that up. And this is the one thing that if your realtor tells you, oh, you just buy, man, this is a great time to buy, you could always refinance later. you should fucking immediately tell that realtor to go fuck themselves. Okay, let me tell you why. The
Well,
one
they're
thing
not
that
wrong. They're
no,
not
no,
wrong.
no. They're absolutely fucking wrong. 100% wrong. Let me tell you why. Because if interest rates go lower, if the house price goes down, what ends up happening is your equity position starts to get eaten away. And the banks will look at that and ask for way more LTV. So what's going to end up happening is, let's say you have 10% equity in your home or 20% equity, and it's like, let's say a $600,000 house. You buy when you buy the house, you put down your 20% thinking, hey, $120,000, here you go, bank, enjoy, everything is great, and get a loan for the rest of the balance. What's going to happen is that when interest rates come down, if the price of the homes also come down, like I'm saying, you're going to have a position where now all that equity is going to get wiped out. Okay. Your leverage cuts both ways. I think that's the one thing that people don't understand. Yes, you can make money in real estate by leveraging up, but you can also lose money just as fast on the other way down. So that 120,000 that you put down as a down payment, if the price of the home drops by 120,000, the bank loses absolutely nothing. You lose your entire down payment. And for a lot of people, that could mean that it's their entire, it could be their life savings. And now what happens is you go to the bank and says, hey, I want to refinance. You know what the bank is going to tell you? Sorry, your property is appraised for less and you can't refinance. And not to mention, most banks right now, dude, they're tightening their credit lending standards so much that they'll tell you no. Go to another bank. And I'm telling you, one of the things
there's a small window. I mean, do you understand what he's saying, Amit?
Yes. I mean, if the value of the house goes down, then the loan you took from the bank, if you have less equity in the house, or if it looks like the value of the equity is going down, the bank is not going to be happy with that.
Well, it's the value of the two homes.
Right.
So let's say I bought my house for 500,000 and it's worth $1 million right now. So you have 500,000 in equity. Oh my God, that's great, right? So now I want to go buy another home. And Chris is saying, I'm going to take, and the new home is let's say the new home is 500,000 or 700,000, whatever. And I need to put down a $200,000 down payment. You'd say, well, I'm going to take 200,000 out of the equity that I built up in the first home and put it as the down payment on the second home. What Chris is saying is that if the rates drop to 2%, right, and the values of the homes drop simply because there's less buyers for more, or there's less buyers for more homes, right? The prices have to come down.
Right.
I don't have 500,000 in equity in that first house anymore.
Right.
My house's value could drop down to say 650. Let's just say. So I've actually lost say 350,000 in equity, or equity that I built in the house. So now when I try to borrow the 200,000 to put on the other home, I don't really have that, because there's the idea of like loan to value, right? You need to have a certain value of the home compared to the loan that you're trying to take. So what ends up happening is, even if the price on the home I'm trying to buy comes down, the house that I'm using as equity or as collateral in that sense is also losing value. It's like,
so why are you saying that was a good thing for realtors to?
No, what I'm saying is that there's a window of time with which you can do that. It takes time for those things to happen. So like, I know this because this is what happened to a friend of mine when he was trying to get out of an apartment. When at the beginning of COVID, he just immediately put his house on the market, and it was still commanding the same rates that it was right before things went a little crazy. He actually ended up maybe selling it maybe a month or two after that happened, but quickly after that, housing prices started dropping. But he was able to cash out basically at the top, and he was buying his new property in a new area when prices were still coming up. So it was basically, he was able to capitalize on the environment, on the new environment, on the new properties that were coming on the market, while still being able to capitalize on the high equity that he had. That same home now is worth less, and his new house is worth more. You get what I'm saying? So he was able to catch it. There's a small window with which you can do that. So when I say like the refinance, you literally have to refinance that same day and get out of your house like within that month, because it takes time for them.
That's not easy to do.
Well, because the reason why the housing prices will go down is if houses come on the market and they're there 30 days, 60 days, and they're not selling. It takes that time for those houses to be on the market and not sell, for people to reprice. Once they start repricing them, then it becomes a bidding war on the sale on the price of the homes, not the price of the sale. And what you want is, you want people bidding to get your home. You don't want homeowners bidding to get your sale.
Right.
And so there's a small window of opportunity there to do it. And you'd say maybe it's 2 months, before you really start seeing like, hey, these houses have been on the market. Somebody was commenting in the chat, I think it was Warren, that he's seeing a lot of these like multifamilies are on the markets 30, 40, 50, 60 days, 90 days, and they're coming down in price because no one's buying them. And that's how you know, oh, you know what? We have to reprice the whole market. And then once that word gets out and that starts making headlines, then you would have what you're saying, hey, we're officially having a bit of a housing crisis. Prices are coming down everywhere.
So by that logic, Zocold, right now, interest rates are going up, house pricing is higher. Lower, if interest rates come down, house prices will go even higher. You know, is that what you're saying? No, I'm just saying Zocold is saying if interest rates go down, house prices will go up. Demand will increase, hence the increase in home prices.
Well, I think because he's saying if interest rates go down, more buyers will be excited to buy. Therefore,
it depends. It's a balance between. He's right. There are buyers that are holding, that are waiting on the sidelines. He's not wrong. There are people that want to buy a home right now, but are waiting for rates to come down. Chris's point, though, is it all depends on the amount of demand or the amount of supply that becomes available once those prices come down, once the rates come down. So if the rates went to 2% tomorrow, you probably have the situation Chris is talking about. But if they started to come down slowly over time and let the inventory come in and get bought up as it's made, as it becomes available, it would be better. It'd be the same thing as like, you know, like if Tesla just suddenly made 1 million Cybertrucks, like tomorrow had 1 million Cybertrucks, they would not be able to command the price that they would because they need to move them. This is why you lower prices when you have an oversupply. So it really just depends on the rate of rates coming down and then the subsequent response from the market in terms of houses coming on the market.
So one of the things I just wanted to mention is I'm seeing two scenarios that could happen. Okay. One scenario is pretty much just what happened from the 1990s, where the price of homes actually did not increase very much. Okay. You just had almost like flat growth relative to inflation, which means that if you bought a home, you're basically just getting the same return as inflation, which is good. That's technically good for the average consumer. The problem is that, on the other hand, if the Fed were to cut really fast, we could see a housing crash that gets really bad. Which scenario would I want to see? I don't know. I don't know which one would be worse. But what my gut is telling me is that we could end up having some level of economic stagnation and then also have deflationary headwinds from AI being there. So what right now everyone is looking at is inflation. What I'm seeing is deflation happening in the next 10 years. And it's similar to like Japan, where basically it's just lower growth for a long period of time. But then again, the US is not Japan. We're a lot more dynamic. We're a lot more innovative in terms of economy. But I see so many technologies starting to come up that have deflationary impacts to the general market that I can't think of a time where inflation is going to stay what it is. Like AI is boosting productivity for the average worker so much. You have EVs, which at this point I can safely say are probably going to be deflationary, right? Because people are going to be using pretty gas at home by basically plugging in, right? Which means that they don't have to like spend all this extra money on fuel and all this other shit. And I think there's robotics that's coming around, which might end up disrupting, you know, the average worker, and actually have more people competing against like robots, basically not robots like physical robots. But as an example, the other day I was on American Express's website because I needed to just look at a charge, and dude, I was talking to I was talking to the bot. I didn't realize it was a goddamn bot.
They're becoming good.
Dude, it was like literally 15 minutes into the conversation.
The chat? A text chat?
I was text chatting back and forth, and they were like joking with me and shit. Like I was joking back, like, "Hey, how's the weather
what are you wearing?
over there?"
What are you wearing now?
Yeah, and so it was hilarious. Like the guy, the bot was actually talking just like a normal person, and then I asked it a really weird question. It's like, "Hold on, let me get an agent for you. It was nice talking to you." I was like, "What?" It's like, "Well, I was just fucking chatting with a bot." You know, so
that's saying, like the AI version of being catfished.
Literally.
Yeah.
You got botfished.
I got botfished. And so now I'm like, man, how many other conversations have I had with people who who aren't really people.
You're like
They're
that chick
just
on a plane.
bots.
That bot is not real. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. Yep.
So Chris, then given this analysis you put out on Twitter, when do you think the Fed is going to have to cave and cut rates? Because you said you think they're done with pausing. The Jackson Hole speech kind of sounded like they were done. When do you think it happens? Do you think it happens this year or start of next year?
Before you answer that,
yeah.
I was looking for this video that I saw. It was on X. I keep reminding myself on X. It was someone from the Fed that was asked that very question. And what she said is, she goes, you know what? Well, based on our research, we think that lowering rates right now would be worse than continuing to raise rates. And she goes, so if anything, we're looking at still continuing to raise rates.
Well, they have to sound hawkish because they can't sound like they took over, like they beat inflation. So every time the Fed sounds hawkish, I take it with a grain of salt because there's no way, like they logically can't be bullish or else there's going to be too much euphoria entering into the market.
Yeah. That's what she basically said. She goes, we're still experiencing inflation. And she goes, at least for the foreseeable future. I'll see if I can find it because it was a short interview, but she was saying, basically, don't get your hopes up.
Yeah.
Rates are probably going up or staying neutral.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying in terms of like a bad thing for the Fed is because they're kind of stuck. If they were to lower rates, it could drive the economy into overdrive. Right now, we've already got a really strong economy. GDP is through the roof. So it's like, okay, we don't want to lower rates because everything is already so strong, and we might make it worse by putting the GDP into overdrive. But then at the same time, we can't necessarily raise because raising might end up breaking something in the market. So let's just stay neutral. And if they stay neutral for long enough, this buildup in housing is gonna end up impacting them in the long run. So I don't know, man. This is literally an economic
don't you think
disaster.
I think that's the goal. I think the goal is to break something. I just don't think they know what to break and when to break it. Like, I do think some of this is being timed with the upcoming election. You want the economy to be booming. It's always good for the incumbent president to have the economy doing well, right?
Why does the Fed care about the incumbent president doing well?
Well, right now they kind of have to do, they have to do his bidding. I mean, they're going to still be around for whatever new president is there, but it's always something that the president tries to pull those levers.
Like the Fed always tries to help the administration is what you're saying.
Typically, I mean, yeah. I mean, there's no reason not to, right? When there's no reason not to. It's not like they're actively trying to tank the economy. But in general, you want to time that so that things are going well when you need people to vote for you. I mean, it's kind of pretty simple.
Here's a weird question for you guys. Everywhere I'm looking, I'm seeing people getting laid off. Okay, I'm just seeing a lot of layoffs everywhere. It doesn't matter which sector you're seeing layoffs. Yet the numbers that the Fed is reporting do not reflect that. What is going on?
Hey, and I've seen that too. But what those numbers don't report is how many of those new jobs that are created are one person taking on a second job or a third job in order to make ends meet. Like I'm sure your feed has been inundated with a bunch of people just posting the camera being like, I can't do this. I can't tell you, like, every day I'm seeing single moms being like, I can't do this. I'm working 3 jobs. All my money's going to, I'm being really frugal. I don't go out to eat. I don't drink coffee. I don't do anything. I cook all my meals at home, but I'm spending $400 a week just for my 2 kids. This is not sustainable. And so I'm taking on a third job just so I can pay someone, right? So if a single mom takes on a job to then pay a nanny to watch their kids so that she can go out and make whatever little bit extra money, yes, you've created 2 new jobs. She's taken a new job and she's employing someone in to watch her kids. But is that the kind of jobs that we want to create? So the numbers aren't the actual number of new jobs isn't as important as what are the types of jobs, who's getting them, and how many of those are one person working multiple jobs.
Well, the thing that I'm seeing is you're seeing a lot of white collar layoffs, and maybe new jobs are more blue collar. Maybe that's the disconnect. That
doesn't it make the distinction on the reports?
I mean, it does. I haven't. You know what? That's the one thing I need to do. I know that last quarter, the number of jobs in like recreation and construction were relatively high, but the other ones, the white collar jobs, were actually taking a bit of a hit. So
the managerial class.
Yeah. I just wonder, but the thing is, like, most of the disposable income comes from the higher end white collar jobs, or at least they used to. I know right now a lot of blue collar jobs pay really well, but overall, there's something going on in this economy that does not fucking make sense. And I'm getting to the point where my spidey
You're
senses
just spidey
like
senses. You're
tingling,
like,
man.
I know, because I'm with you. I'm saying like the numbers are saying everything's going well. Certain stocks are doing really well, right? They're still reporting crazy earnings. Like everyone seems to be doing well, but I'm not seeing that. Like something I was actually going to talk to you guys offline is I went last night to get a battery for this remote. It's like fan that I have, and I went to CVS, and I went in there, and the guy, all the batteries were like locked down. So I say to the guy, I said, hey, how's that going? How's that going? I was like, are people like robbing the store? He's like, yeah. He's like, actually, I said, so if I took these batteries and I just walked out of the store, well, what would you guys do? He's like, well, we can't do anything. We have a do not engage policy. He's like, please don't do that with me standing right next to you. He said, I was like, no, I'm paying for these batteries, but I'm just really curious, like what's going on. So I go to the cashier to pay, and I said to the guy, what's going on with the people robbing the stores? Is that happening here? This is like 5 minutes from my house. And he goes, this Target or this CVS has one of the biggest problems with robbery. We have a guy who comes in here daily, fills a shopping cart full of alcohol, even with the little things on it, and just walks out. And we're not allowed to engage him. They're furious. And he's like, the last guy who tried to engage him at all, got fired on the spot. They're telling you that you get fired on the spot. So I'm saying to myself, like, and I'm seeing like, homeless, not homeless encampments, but they move them away, but they come back. I'm seeing more homeless around here. See some like RV cities building up on certain blocks. And I'm like, where is the economy doing so well? Right. You see videos coming out of San Francisco, and I'm like, where is it that it's doing so well? I don't understand, because I'm seeing it even in my industry. I'm seeing it like a constriction. I'm seeing people get laid off. I'm seeing people struggling to find work, and I'm seeing it white collar and blue collar. So I don't know. I'm with you. I'm just like, where is this America that's supposedly booming right now? Because everyone I know is sort of keeping their cards close to their chest and sort of batting down the hatches, right? Waiting for the axe to drop. I don't know. What are you guys seeing in the chat in your area? Where do you guys live, and what are you seeing in your area? Are you seeing?
Michael said he spent $100 for 2 people in LA. I feel like that's LA though. That's not just.
No, that's not. That's. I mean, that's a lot of money.
$100 in New Jersey is gonna get us at least a family of 4.
But $100 on lunch. What did you order? You're ordering eggs.
Yeah, dude,
You're ordering bread,
dude,
eggs,
think
and a
of
salad, or
yeah.
like it's not a dinner. $100 on a dinner, you'd say fine, but on a lunch,
Yeah,
that's a lot of money, man. $100.
That is insane.
See, the problem is that you've gotten so used to the $100 lunches that you don't even remember a time where there maybe a good lunch was like $20. You know what I mean? Just think about that.
There's one area by
yeah.
me. There's one spot. It's a Cuban spot that the prices are still incredibly reasonable, and that place has a line out the door. I mean, they must be making millions, like millions and millions a year. It's the most successful bakery. It's called Porto's, and you just always see a line at the door, and the prices are pretty reasonable for 2 adults with maybe a little side dish for like my kid to eat. It's like $50 for like a good decent sized lunch where you take a bit of it home and can eat the rest of it later, and maybe have a couple of pastries that you can bring home. That seems reasonable.
But the thing is, if the consumer is willing to pay for it, it doesn't seem like things are breaking, right? Like if people are willing to pay the $100.
But what's the alternative? I mean, but it's like,
I mean, the alternative is people just don't fucking. They're like, we're in a recession. People won't pay, but it doesn't seem like that's the case.
Well, so here's the question. So how can we leverage this into a good investment? And I'll tell you how. I actually discovered this. Broiler chickens. You ever heard of that before? Broiler chickens. You know what they are?
No.
Is that the
Broiler
shit that
chickens?
Costco buys and they sell at a loss?
No.
That's chicken
Broiler
That's different.
broiler chickens are specifically chickens that are designed for meat production, right? So one of the things that, let me just share my screen real quick. And this is something that's, I'm going to take you guys on a loophole, almost like a
rabbit hole.
And then
Yeah,
after you
rabbit
after
hole,
you
yeah.
do, go through the chat, because it's interesting where people are saying they live and what they're noticing in their area. It's interesting. We should bring up some of them.
Yeah. So right here, this is the price of chicken breast, boneless chicken breast.
Damn, that chicken needs to get an
It's-
OnlyFans.
Look at this of the last
Get
Got the breast, right?
Seriously. Damn.
last 10 years. Look at that. The price of chicken has gone from like $3.65 a pound all the way down. And I mean, this is like pre-inflation, quote unquote. Look at the price. It's gone down, down, and down, right? And then all of a sudden, after COVID, you had a giant spike. Majority of the spike, of course, was some of that was just extended demand from people being at home. But then you see this giant rise in prices of chicken.
Yeah.
Most of that was specifically from natural gas prices. Okay. Now, the reason why natural gas prices, because natural gas equals fertilizer. Fertilizer equals growing in the farm,
Crop
and
that
that
they
extra grainage ends up being feed grain for the chickens and stuff like that. So what ends up happening is when you have a spike in natural gas prices, they translate into higher food production costs. If the higher food production costs come around, they get passed on to the consumer. So right now, the price of chicken is actually going down. It was it was at a really high in September of 2022, but you can see here the trend is on its way down to something that's more historical levels. So one of the things that I've been checking is broiler chicken production across the US. Like these are the hens that you're looking at here. And it's very interesting how this is actually playing out. Now, the question is, how do we turn this into alpha for us? Do we speculate on chicken futures? No. The thing that I noticed is that
Are there chicken futures? Do we have?
They are. You can
for
actually.
those
There
two in
are.
the
There's
picture?
chicken futures.
For
Yeah.
those two in the
Hold on, I'm
picture.
googling
no.
this right now.
Yeah. The way that I would do it is by actually buying stock in Wingstop. And I'll tell you why. It's because what happened was just
That
like you
sounds
guys
like
said-
wait. That sounds like you wanted to buy Wingstop, and you're like, I'm gonna reverse engineer a reason.
No,
to
no,
buy
no, no,
fucking-
no, no,
Come
no,
on,
no.
man.
Now we
no.
figured it out.
Really?
No.
He's like, I'm gonna figure out how to
No.
intellectually
I'm gonna figure out a
justify
way
this
to
stupid
fucking
valuation on
reverse
Wingstop.
engineer this is gonna
found
work.
it.
No.
By the way, this
Let
is the
me-
chicken future. This is crazy.
That's crazy.
This
No,
is
the
capitalism, bro. We got futures
the
on
reason-
cattle,
On animals,
hogs,
yeah.
beef.
The
cattle.
reason why Wingstop would be a good investment is because just like you guys said, people are used to paying the higher prices of, for food. Wingstop has been able to raise the prices on their wings, and now people are used to that higher price, but the input cost for the chickens is going down. So that means that you have now more extended profit that you're able to make. If you look at a lot of products like Walmart stuff, a lot of stuff, the prices have gone up, but now the input that usually you have that they sell with, those things are going down now. So the price of chickens is actually going down, yet the price that Wingstop is charging per wing is not going down, right? If anything, they're maintaining it and they're actually raising a little bit more. So that's where you're going to see more alpha. And it's not just in the wing industry. If you want, you could look at any other industry you want. But basically, a lot of the benefits that manufacturers and sellers and suppliers have had in terms of deflationary impacts, like where you've got prices actually starting to correct, those haven't made it to the public yet, because people are just enjoying those fucking fatter and fatter margins that you're getting. So if, let's say, last year you were having to pay $4.50 for chicken, and you were selling, you're selling wings to compensate for that, when the price of chicken drops, you're not saying, oh, you know what, let's drop the prices too. No, what you're doing is you're enjoying the spread. And I think that's where the alpha is, man. So
It's kind of like the consumer hasn't complained too much about the extra prices on Wingstop, so that's why they're not
But
dropping.
also, if this wasn't occurring at the same time that overall U.S. credit card debt wasn't also at an all-time high, I might agree with you, because how do we know? I mean, people are basically financing their current existence on debt. The difference between what they used to make at their job, or they're basically financing the inflation into debt. But there comes a point where that debt comes due.
Carlos, I heard this whole debt statistic is like, it's been debunked a lot from a lot of different angles.
From that
Yeah,
credit card?
one simple angle is there's way more money. There's more money supply, so there's obviously going to be more debt. And then I saw a bunch of things on Twitter saying everyone complaining about the $1 trillion of credit card debt is like elementary analysis around debt. And maybe I'm wrong.
Still, I mean,
what I've
it's
seen.
still a tremendous amount of debt, and the interest payments on that debt alone. If you think about, like, when you get your statement from Amex, it'll tell you if you pay the minimum, it'll take you 560 years to pay this off. I mean, think about how long this is. Think about what you're seeing there, and then think about what you're seeing in your feed and what you're seeing around you. The reality is people are living more and more off of debt now, thinking, hey, maybe something's going to change in the future, or they literally have no other choice. All those people that you see on your feed that are complaining about prices being too high, where are they getting the money to pay for it?
Okay, so speaking of the debt stuff, Chris, let me ask you this question. I was hearing Ross Gerber talk about this. I want your take. All the banks are holding all of these loans and all of these paper losses because interest rates rose the highest they've ever done and the quickest they've ever been in 40 years. So Bank of America has like something like $100 billion in paper losses or something, some crazy. And this is Warren Buffett owns 7% of the stock or of the entire company. Is the Fed at all going to say, hey, the banks, like if every bank collapses, there is no American economy. And if we keep raising rates, these loans they have on their books are just going to keep losing value. So at some level, we've got to cut rates just for the banks to be able to not be under this much pressure because they're holding, at this point, trillions of dollars of losses on paper because of the fast rise in interest rates. Or do you think the Fed doesn't care at all about the banks?
No. I mean, the Fed cares about the banks, but they've already got a mechanism to protect against this, which is I forgot what the exact program was. Hold on one second. But basically, damn it.
America runs on debt. That should be the new Duncan logo. America doesn't run on
I mean,
debt.
it literally
Run
does. It literally does. That's an accurate statement.
Okay. Hold on one second. So after the collapse of FRC, all right, man, this is going to suck if I give you guys an entire lecture on it, but it's worth doing. So I'll do it. Okay. One of the problems with FRC and SVB, of course, was that they had taken on a lot of deposits and use those deposits to buy medium and longer term basically debt, where they would issue the debt out to their own consumer clients. So FRC was doing this fucking weird thing, but it made sense because that's what rich people do. They're going to milk the system. So what they were doing was, let's say you had $10 million. You would put that money with FRC. FRC would give you all sorts of perks for being a member. They'd send you to private parties. They'd fucking send a jet for you, all the perks. Now, the thing is, all those things would be on the cost of the bank. So the rich person wouldn't have to pay any taxes on it and all this, but they get to enjoy that fucking higher class life, right? Which is what rich people want to do. Now, on the other hand, one of the things that they were able to do was they were able to issue these mortgages at fucking like 1%. Like, imagine right now you're a rich motherfucker and you're getting a loan of 1%, which is unfair. That's a fucking really stupid thing. Like, the average person has to pay 4.5%, 5%. You get an interest rate of 1%. The problem is when shit hit the fan and the interest rates started to rise, these rich people that's what rich people do. Their biggest thing is they want to stay rich. They all pulled their money at the same time. And so SVB and FRC, all their shit was like, their fair market value of their loans was cut dramatically. And so in order to finance the return of that deposit money back to the people, they had to liquidate these assets. And the thing is, if they had a liquidity event, that's it. They're completely insolvent. That's when the Fed had to take over. That's why when I was doing that whole spiel on Twitter in March, people were really getting, dude, you won't believe the amount of hate comments that I got for bringing that up. Like, if I showed you guys some of the stuff that people were writing me, it was fucking nuts. Like, because I was actually warning people in March. I was like, hey guys, this is a big problem that no one seems to be talking about. Let me actually bring that up because it's worth taking a look at.
Was it a tweet back then? It was a tweet.
Yeah. What happened was FRC. I did a deep dive into FRC's numbers, and a lot of people were like, "What are you talking about? That's impossible." They gave and just show the damn thing.
Twitter needs to have a better function where you could search your own tweets.
You can.
It's impossible.
You can inside your.
I did it. So cool. This is right here. This is. This is.
Oh, I
this
see.
is
You put
around.
tail at the search bar. That's how you do it.
Yeah. So this was FRC during the, what is that thing called? Right before the crash. Okay, this is right here. This is in March 11th, 2023. Okay. Let me just put it up here. If you look at the price of FRC during that time, it was close to $80, $90, right? And so I posted this. I was like, look, they're generating this much interest income, and most from real estate, with the rates climbing really fast. What are they going to do? And so like I said, I posted a whole bunch of DD and I tried to explain to people what was going on. And this is the tweet that really set the whole thing on fire, which was SIVB is bad, but FRC is way worse. And when I did a deep dive into this, a lot of people were questioning it, like, what is going on? Why does Chris do that? You're not well, right here. You're showing nothing irresponsible.
Zoom in. Real quick.
Okay,
Yeah,
here.
small.
Yeah, like this comment right here. You're showing nothing irresponsible. You're trying to say real estate loans backed by hard assets is way worse than an entire industry, an entire treasury exposed to non-performing assets. So I said, it's the concentration risk in real estate mortgages that's negative yielding. He said majority of the percentage of customer deposits are in non-interest bearing accounts. And I'm like, exactly. Capital flight is a real risk. Why would you keep your money with a bank that isn't paying you interest when you could do a 5-year from treasuries? And so when I showed this guy, trust me, there are a lot of people that did not believe.
Go on his profile. Go on Kyle. I want to see who this guy is.
You know.
Okay.
Sports media and gambling.
Wow.
I mean, so
arguing with a random.
So that was March 3rd. And we could just take a look at what happened to FRC's First Republic Bank. Okay, now it's 61 cents.
Is this still public? It's still in the market?
Oh, yeah. So this is what happened to FRC, baby. You see this March 6th, March 7th, March 8th. And when I started posting about it, look at what happened in a week. You see that?
Yeah, it fell off a cliff.
Yep. Like I said, I had a few friends that emailed me and messaged me. They were like, Chris, why are you so fucking negative on FRC? What the hell is going on? And I really responded and I said, look, these are all the data points. I'd be very careful. And literally within a week, the bank was dead.
So why isn't this going to happen to Bank of America, JP Morgan, all this? Like, why isn't the Fed afraid of that?
Right. Because some of the changes that they made structurally actually is going to prevent this from happening in the future, at least for now. So, once the cat is out of the bag, you're going to create systems where you can actually protect against it happening to the other banks. So the program that the Fed came out with was, I keep forgetting what the damn name is. Face value. Let me just, because I don't want to be, I don't want to.
Damn, MGR, he lost 78,000 on FRCB. Hopefully you make that back with SoFi, bro. I know you're big in SoFi. That's wild.
Okay. Have you guys heard of BTFP?
Buy the fucking puts?
No. So right here.
You're really proud of how quickly you said that.
Bro, I'm just like, people are going to see in Vegas. I'm a comedian. I'm not even drunk. This is crazy.
Okay. So can you guys see this right here? So this right here was the stopgap solution. So the Fed created something called the BTFP, which is the bank right here, the bank term funding program, where basically the cause of these guys' collapse was that there wasn't enough liquidity because the assets that they have, they were actually valuable assets. These loans that they had were paper losses, but the minute that you get hit with a bank run, those paper losses become real losses, and that's what's going to kill you. So because of that program, now the way that it works is that you can go to the Fed, use the asset itself, put it to the Fed and say, lend me the money, right? And I will borrow that money from you for the term of the loan, which is a 1-year loan, so that this way I can pay the depositors if I have a run happen on me. So right now, let's say there's a run on Bank of America and Bank of America does not have $50 billion of liquidity because all of Bank of America's money is tied up in real estate mortgages and stuff like that. Prior to this program, the bank would not be able to, survive those credit losses. But right now, with the Fed, what they can do is literally just go to the Fed and say,
print the money.
Here are all the mortgages that I have. Take those mortgages as collateral, give me the liquidity, the cash, and I can pay these depositors off. So now you don't have a liquidity issue. So that's where
what's the interest rate on that loan.
I think it's trades at the current rate of interest right now. Whatever the current like the short rate is what it is. Like maybe like 5.5%
So then,
or five and a
but then
quarter.
if the banks need to do that, they're still losing money because
Yeah,
if they're holding, you know what I mean?
it's better to
Right. It's
lose
better than collapsing, but they're
yeah,
still
it's better
losing
to
money
lose
because the assets
it's
were
better
not.
to lose a couple of points in spread and basically operate that way than to lose the entire like I said, recognize the actual loss, the entire
Right.
loss on
Right.
the
Right. Right.
on the loan, you know. Yeah.
Hmm.
This is all interesting stuff. We are gonna see, I guess, how this plays out over the next couple months.
Why don't we end with this one? Who's coming? Maybe Chris, when you come down. You guys see this?
Tesla has won permanent approval for its diner and drive-in movie. Bro, this is gonna be packed in LA.
I know exactly where this
people.
place is. This used to be a place called the Cat and the Fiddle, which was probably my favorite place in LA. It's still there, or it's still there, I think. Or they made it a new spot. It's not as good as the previous spot, but that was one place that they were looking for. When this place opens, I'm going to be there day one. Maybe we should. I
feel like it's gonna be so crowded every day in LA, right?
Huh?
Like there's gonna be so crowded.
Well, there's a lot more. I'm even seeing a lot more Teslas. Like I know that I would say I see Teslas all the time, but I'm seeing a lot more now. Like at every light, there's like 5 or 6 of us just all crowded together on the highway. You see them all the time.
What'd you think of Elon? Did you guys get to watch Elon test driving?
Yeah,
Friday?
I don't know. Did you watch the video?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw like some of it, and it looked pretty cool to me.
So real quick, I mean, but just to explain how massive of an important, how important of a milestone that was FSD operating entirely on a neural net.
Yeah.
As opposed to the way that it was operating before, say basically by with training data and a specific rule set. This was an AI that was trained on video data that was making decisions. Like as he was driving, he was saying, we did not tell, there's no line of code that tells the vehicle to slow down at a speed bump or to yield to a pedestrian in the crosswalk or a bicyclist. It's just literally learning what the goal is based on all of the video training data. So when it makes a mistake, they just feed it a bunch of videos that show it what it's supposed to be doing. And so it's learning. I mean, he said it was a lot smoother, but I wouldn't, you can't see that in the video, but that's a massive moment. I mean, that is like, a step away from having this AGI solution where this thing can just see and experience the world around itself and drive itself to the location. So that's a big moment. And I was actually texting with, I think I was texting with Rango about this, or like Rango had hit me up. But I'm wondering if this actually doesn't help accelerate the timeline for the bot, because that is what's necessary for the bot. The bot needs to just basically understand the world around it and perform tasks. So the bot understanding its world is a lot easier than the car. But the bot obviously has way more mechanics to actually get it to do useful things. But that was a big moment. Cause, can you break down what's so important about a neural net, Garcia? It's because the thing is thinking. It's a fundamentally different thing than running a computer program that has code where you're telling it what to do in every situation. And then what you're looking for from the fleet are the edge cases with which you can program, okay, if this something like this happens, this is how you make that decision. The vehicle itself now, having this neural net, making decisions based on neural net, it is inferring and making decisions on what to do based on precedent. So it's learning to drive the same way that we learn to drive. Input comes in through our eyes, and based on what we need to do, what the goals are, and reacting to the world around us in the current situation, you move your body and move the vehicle accordingly. That's a huge leap. Even though it looks exactly the same, fundamentally how FSD 12 is handling driving a vehicle is different than 11.4 or whatever it was. What was that they were up to? It's a massive moment. And again, it makes me really bullish that we are a lot closer than what people think.
Yeah.
All right. I guess
By the way,
end it on this.
Yeah, what I just posted was my favorite thing. Hold on one second. Right here. So someone posted, fuck you and your short. This is like one of the things that you love about like Twitter history.
Hey, all of a sudden shorting them? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, well, I didn't short them. I was just pointing out that they had a problem. I know someone who did and made a fuck ton of money because they had more balls than I did. But basically, like you can see here, the animosity that people came at, like hate the downside is, and someone else put like this posted in age well either big banks are giving FRC deposits, and I'm like, bro, if you don't know shit about banking, you should probably not talk about it. Like some of these guys, like whoever that guy was, I know the guy, like basically I've at least mentioned it a couple times. The banking system is way more fragile than people think, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out that there could be a problem coming down the pike. And I'm telling you right now, there is something off in this economy that could end up breaking if we don't, if the Fed is not careful with how their decisions are being taken right now. I'm telling you, my biggest concern for the next couple of years is going to be in housing. You cannot have a system where the price of housing stays so elevated to the point where people can't even fucking afford a place. It's something eventually is going to break. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
There's also a bit of this too, where yes, the raising of rates is having an impact, but to your point, there are companies that are gouging. I mean, there is gouging going on. I remember one of the first few quarters that Starbucks had after the reopening. They were talking about he was praising the pricing team for being able to essentially find the point where, like you're saying, where people just won't pay anymore for it, right? Like you just find that point where people are still willing to pay a little bit more for a coffee, and then maybe we've gone a little too far. And basically what he's saying is just increasing our profit margins just because we can, right? And so there's still a little bit of that going on. But what's hard is almost any industry can find some way of justifying the price increase by either connecting it to the Fed or energy, right? If the price of gas went up, then it's costing us more in the gasoline to deliver our goods and services. There's a bit of all those things are happening at the same time. And so it's hard to point to any one particular thing.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of sad. I think someone mentioned up there, like, look at Canada, maybe massive people on the street. There's so many people on the street. So a lot of people would have you believe that there's a housing shortage, right? And to be honest, I looked at the numbers and there's actually not a housing shortage. If you look at it on a per household basis, the amount of homes is actually tracking with the amount of households that's out there. The problem is, whether it's through vacancies or short-term rentals, a lot of people are not able to get homes at affordable prices. And so we'll see what happens with that.
All right.
Well,
That's it for us for today. Starting off the new week. Hope everyone has a good week. We will be back on my channel tomorrow and September 3rd. So basically a week from now, we are officially on this channel full time. You guys will be able to send super chats. We already have the qualifications to monetize, but Apple is Apple. So we can't
Apple
do
zero
until Apple.
All right, good seeing you guys.
Insane, bro. That's crazy. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Have a good one.
Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Later.